Hi there, it's Kieran here again with Brutally Delicious, reviewing the self-titled album from Californian cave dwellers, Dipygus. A dipygus is the term for a congenital deformity in which a human develops an extra set of legs and pelvis, and the band carry this penchant for biological curiosity in their lumbering stride. Dipygus is an endearing oddball entity in the modern metal landscape, and while for me personally, their strength and appeal have so far laid in their eccentric themes and solid application of nostalgic grisly death metal, they've risen a good few steps in the evolutionary chain with this release and are rewarded for their experimentation. Coming just 7 months after their 2023 EP Wet Market, the band has once again risen from the primordial ooze to bludgeon listeners with their third full-length album. Dipygus stay true to their uncompromising aesthetic and treats us to a punishing chunk of Paleolithic death metal that unapologetically sticks to its guns while evolving musically to deliver more than just grunt. Comparisons can be made to early 90s horror-obsessed death metal acts like Impetigo and Autopsy sonically, and with modern contemporaries like Fulci and Tenebro, who have crafted a nostalgic sound dripping in gore and peppered with movie sound bites to amplify the atmosphere. Dipygus alternatively dwell in a mire of horror that is rooted in the earth, albeit through a distinctly ancient lens. Songs feature static-filled sound clips that echo recollections of cannibals, yetis, and Sasquatches, murmuring recounts of ghostly happenings like fractured pieces of a doomed expedition, and warm analog synthesizers whir neatly in the mix, heightening the eerie sense of dread. The carefully curated chaos captures perfectly the mood of a 70s cult exploitation horror movie, and Dipygus sound at their most grimy and dangerous. The album sounds like it's been long buried and exhumed from the deepest recesses of the prehistoric world. Much like the preceding decaying body of work, this album is a creature feature, an anthology of tracks surrounding obscure folklore, grotesque life forms, and prehistoric oddities, reveling in the unknown and obscene, and documenting biological terrors beyond comprehension. One of the band's guitarists and bassists studied zoology in school, and this can be attributed to the fully realised and explored thematic framework that drives Dipygus. I noticed right away as I plunged into the album for the first time that the production sounded drier than the band's previous albums. There's less of a humid, squelchy quality to the carnage, and instead the sound is cavernous and almost subterranean. Clarissa still provides fittingly monstrous vocals, but they appear more distant, as if they were spewed forth from inside a cave, perhaps as a sermon to the stony-faced creatures that populate the album's cover. The sound is all round a little more stripped back, as the off-kilter lead riffs employ exotic minor scales to bring an ancient quality to that riffage that perfectly captures the primitive setting, and the lead work is at its most dexterous and inventive yet. The prominent guitar lines are given room to breathe amidst the stripped-back production, however the riffs remain angular and dissonant, and the outcome is just as filthy as ever. The eerie, skeletal dual guitar harmonies creep menacingly and evoke feelings of the guitar work, kind of like Autopsy's Mental Funeral album, which is in my opinion a textbook example of powerful, minimal production in death metal. The layering of the instrumentation and synth work creates an atmosphere that remains suffocating and dreadful, while more esoteric than its predecessors. The production sounds organic, while under the sticky layer of swampy primordial film, the band showcases competent and progressive songwriting that really propels them beyond just another knuckle-dragging death metal act. While both Wet Market and Bushmeat are characterised with a more relentless, fast-paced opening half and a largely creeping, doom-centred back end, this album really mixes things up a lot more as songs pulse and swell organically. The drum performance is dynamic and varied, interlocking jilted rhythms with grinding blasts and slow tribal pummeling. And the bass work is one of the album's highlights in my opinion, as the punchy bass really cuts through the mix and demands attention at the forefront of most of the riffs. The guitar sound is a little thinner this time around, but the beefed up bass ensures that no power and attack is lost. The really noteworthy bass performance conjures another autopsyism in my mind, as it reminds me of the killer bass sound on Severed Survival. The big low end adds another layer of murk to the trudging doomy passages, and an almost punk-inspired momentum to the high-octane grinding riffs. Dipygus is really at their most dynamic and intelligent on this record. Now, the ninth and longest track on Dipygus' self-titled album is my pick of the acts, as a culmination of everything the band is throwing at the listener throughout the album, and it showcases their most fully realised composition yet. The layers of synth, sound bites and guitars swirl and intertwine as the track builds, and the big crushing bass stomp crescendo pays off in a wave of primal catharsis. Every time I listen, I can't wipe the caveman scowl off my face as I feel myself devolving into pre-human form. The interlude has become a fixture in Dipygus' discography, experimenting with unsettling soundscapes and giving an uneasy breather to listeners mid-album. Bug Sounds 2, Mega Australis, is given its title by the species of giant worm native to Australia. I'm both proud of my homeland getting a mention and disconcerted at the writhing earworm, pun completely intended, that pairs ominous minimal synth a la George Romero soundtrack with insectoid noises. The album didn't hit me with the immediacy that Wet Market, or particularly their previous album Bushmeat, did. However, with each repeat listen, I would find another point of interest to sink my teeth into. There's a lot of replay value here, and I think Dipygus has achieved a perfect balance of thoughtful, fleshed-out songwriting, while never compromising on the primal, bestial energy they offer. I think a band's self-titled album often acts as an important landmark in their career, whether it be to reinvent or solidify their identity, and Dipygus has used this to deliver an excellent defining record. While their brand of visceral death metal doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel, it doesn't have to, and the band has carved a distinct niche for themselves in the death metal bedrock. We can be thankful that we don't have to live in Dipygus' twisted depiction of a horrifying prehistoric world, but at least we have the pleasure of listening in from afar. I couldn't recommend this album enough, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the band has to offer in the future. This is Kieran again with Brutally Delicious, and thanks for listening.